We have a guest in the studio who's joining us now. Emmanuel Wangwe is the MP for Navakholo constituency. He is also the chairman of the Public Investments Committee on Social, Administration, Health and Agriculture. He is here to talk about the politics of the day. Azimio. Is Azimio standing the chance of survival against the onslaught that we've seen from State House? Let's welcome the Mheshimiwa with the day's proverb, City.
Yes, our proverbs for this whole week come from the country of Tanzania, our immediate neighbor on this other side. Okay? Where there are trees, there are masons.
Where there are trees, there are masons.
You know, I found this particular proverb puzzling, and that's why I chose it as the first proverb for the week. Masons, trees. Because masons deal with stones.
Probably that's it. It's because they don't need trees. That's why they don't cut trees. That's why you'll find trees.
Oh, I hadn't thought of it that way.
Because masons will not need trees, or they'll not cut the trees. So you'll find the forest surviving. Lakini enda kwa mto
Or
na
go to-
makware.
or a place, yes, then you'll find them at work. And we are therefore saying that if you find a place where there are carpenters, or seremala, as we call them, then you wouldn't find trees.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah?
Good one.
Could be, yeah?
Good
Mheshimiwa
one,
Emmanuel Wangwe, good morning.
Good morning, Eric.
Thank you very much for joining us today. Kenya's biggest conversation. This is the hot seat of the Situation Room.
Most welcome.
Karibu.
Asante.
That proverb,
Yes.
what's your interpretation of it?
It's as good as saying, where do you expect a politician to be? I'm a politician, and definitely when there is politics, you said it's a hot seat. We should navigate where things are hot, not where things are light. So that actually you lead from the front.
Right.
Yes.
Where there's development, there are
Yes.
no politicians.
I disagree.
Sorry, yeah.
I disagree. I disagree.
That was in jest.
Yes, yes.
And it was intended to elicit the very reaction that we have. Now, expound on why it is that you disagree.
Yeah.
I disagree in the Kenyan scenario. The Kenyan constitution is a hybrid of the Westminster and the US, where Westminster Parliament is almost separate from the executive in term is commingled, where you find the ministers in the House, and so politics and development are all happening in the House. And in the US, you find separation where we don't have a minister in the House, is outside. Similarly to Kenya. So you find that you said where there is politics, there is no development. And now Kenyan scenario is a hybrid where we do budget in the House. The power of the purse, Article 114, is in the House. And the implementation is outside. So you have to really play both so that you understand the power of the purse and the power of implementation of that purse. Yes.
But, Mheshimiwa, is that not what they call separation of powers? And is that not what is supposed to actually be the bedrock of a solid and a balanced government?
You know, when you talk of separation of powers, it means you are going to the cardinal functions of the executive, the legislature, and the judiciary.
Yes.
Yeah. But here you are simply checking each other.
Yeah.
That whereas you are going to implement the pass, I am the one to give you the pass. And I'm not the final authority over it. The judiciary, in case I misbehave, can again overrule me. So it's actually checks and balance. It's not the issue of
Separation of powers?
Conflict.
Okay.
No,
Yeah.
but separation doesn't necessarily mean conflict, Mheshimiwa.
What do you,
It just means what you just said, check and balance.
And that's why I've said, instead of it being calling it conflict, it's a check and balance.
Okay.
That I agree. Yes.
So,
Mheshimiwa, you're a member of parliament for Navakholo
Yes.
constituency. Where is Navakholo?
In terms of direction, in terms
Yes.
of geography,
Yeah.
I would say it's in the county of Kakamega, in the central part. From the beginning, it was called Lurambi. In 2013, when the constitution came up and we had to split, it came out of Lurambi. So the original constituency was Lurambi.
Okay.
Yes.
So you are the first member of parliament for the newly created Navakholo constituency in 2013.
Correct.
Right. And you've been in that parliament now for the third term.
Correct.
You have sat in various committees. You're
Yes.
elected this time under ODM.
Correct.
Has it been always under ODM?
No. In 2013, I did come into parliament on UDF under the party leadership of Honorable Musalia Mudavadi. In 2017, I came in through Jubilee under the leadership of His Excellency Uhuru Kenyatta. And this time I've come in through ODM under the Right Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga.
So do you think people in Navakholo choose the person or the party?
I wouldn't want to separate it and say a person or a party, but it all goes with the association with the people, how you endear to the people, what you tell them. Does it make sense? Does it resonate with them? Is it within the vision they want you to be? So I think that is the position. My people are not really interested too much in a person per se, neither are they too much in a politics of a party. Yes.
So why did you move those 3 times? Why did you find it prudent to move from UDF to Jubilee in 2017 and move from Jubilee to ODM last year?
Eric, politics is the dynamism changes at the last minute. All this you are seeing today, people talking of 1, 2, 3, last minute issues, circumstances change. So in 2013, when I came into power, into leadership through UDF. Immediately after election, we all signed the memorandum. UDF was under Amani Coalition. Amani Coalition signed the memorandum to work with the TNA and URP. So we became too close to each other, that we were like almost one thing. When we went into election of 2017, we were already on board one vehicle. So there was nothing to really say you are crossing over from one party to another or whatever. It was like one vehicle per se.
Okay.
In 2017 to 2022, when I came in through Jubilee, you saw the dynamism. Jubilee had to do with the 2 parties in one. There was the Jubilee A and the Jubilee B, so to call, which has now Jubilee B has gone to be UDA. And so I boarded the vehicle of Mheshimiwa Uhuru Kenyatta, which was the original Jubilee. I was the chief whip of the government in the house. And definitely, Eric, when you are driving a vehicle, you cannot abandon the passengers. So I had to move in. And by the time we are closing the ranks to 2022, it was rather very good to reorganize the region. And Kakamega County, we reorganized ourselves into ODM, which was working closely with Jubilee under Honorable Uhuru Kenyatta. And that's how we ended up with 11 MPs in ODM out of 13 in Kakamega's region.
Okay.
Yes.
And then this thing began to spread like wildfire, and then we saw this coalition, which is now today Azimio. So the 2 parties that you then recognized or that you had worked with, obviously now ODM and previously Jubilee, now came under one umbrella. What did you think about that now that we saw the joining, and then Azimio became what many would say a force to be reckoned with, months to the election and then thereafter? Before we even get to what's happening today, what did you think about that coalition of all these parties coming together?
There was certainty in winning. We could see a win. And definitely, you go into election to win. So whatever coalition or party you're joining, you seem to have almost certainty of coming out as victors. We could see Azimio was cutting across almost everywhere. It was Azimio. It was blue. So definitely it was a coalition to admire. That was the move. That was the situation. And it appeared like definitely here we are going to continue in leadership. Yes.
So today,
Yes.
things look a little bit interesting, wouldn't you say? I guess a picture overall of what we are seeing with Azimio. There are conversations about this person going here. There are conversations about groups leaving. There are conversations about particular parties leaving the coalition. Doesn't do much for confidence for the people that you said then, bought into this idea of Azimio. The question is, what is happening today?
That goes back to the question Eric asked of development and politics. When you are elected into office, you've taken responsibility. Like me, in my constituency, I have about 239,000 people, citizens that I'm leading. They expect every problem to have a solution from me, and definitely, when you get into parliament, there are various issues that require you to resolve, both commercial, development, and social. What makes you want to shift, if you are not in government, towards the issues towards government, is the ability to endear, maybe work out your ways to send some development to your constituency. Remember, Eric, one thing that the current constitution did that is a bit tricky is the issue of how do you establish the budget. That is the whole elephant in the house that people have not understood. When you look at the budget making process, when you are in opposition and you say Parliament makes you get the passes budget. Yeah. Remember, how does Parliament access to that budget? There is what we call the medium-term development framework, which comes from the executive. Yeah. Budget begins as early as August into the new year. So if you have not aligned yourself with the executive, you cannot knock on the door of the principal secretary. You cannot knock on the door of the cabinet secretary. Definitely, your development agenda will miss into the medium term. And then the medium term flows into the budget policy statement. Yep. At that level, if you have missed out your project into the budget, definitely you have nothing.
You're out for that year.
Yeah, for that year. So that is now what makes people want to cross endear to government just for that section.
So that the project can be included into the medium-term
Otherwise, if
plan.
you are not aligned, you cannot move into the government office. You walk into government, like today, Eric, I walked into your studio. You stood and greeted me. You did not hide your papers. But if I'm too much like I'm coming to spy into this room, you will first of all hide your papers, then
there'll be hostile reception.
There'll be hostile reception.
So I hear you saying then that this it looks as though it's castigation of folks who then have gone, who they have said have gone to figure out a development agenda, are essentially betraying the party or betraying the coalition. I mean, it's not hidden, it's what has been said. But you're explaining something different now, saying, look,
it's necessary.
We are politicians, but it's necessary for survival. If we don't find out what the development agenda is for the constituencies in which we operate in as members of parliament, then we're as good as dead.
In politics, you can turn a pen to be a knife. Yes. And for your party leader to survive, he can say, you want to run away from me if you don't explain to him properly why you are going to see the president, why you are going into this particular ministry, why you are going to do 1, 2, 3. Therefore, according to me, it's all about now the political part of it. When you call on to the political part of it, then you look at it and say the political party act puts you on defense that you are not supposed to associate. You are deemed to have resigned even on association.
Just by picking a call.
Yes, by putting a call. That is how the political party act is put. So if you handle it in terms of politics, then that's the way to go. But when you want to look at it from the reality, the Constitution 2010, which we have, that is now the position.
I'm so confused. if you allow me. So if this, it seems to be common knowledge, what you're saying here,
Yes,
amongst practitioners of politics. The real politic here is that, look, there's the ideal that you aspire for, but the truth of the matter here is that if we don't do these things, we will not survive, right? It seems to be something that everybody knows. So if that is the case, why then have to go and seek for permission to go do 1, 2, 3? If your party leader is aware that if you do not hear from the government of the day, if you happen to be in the opposition, if they are aware, why then do you have to seek for them to come and ask for permission to go and see the government of the day, to knock those doors, if you know that is modus operandi?
Now, what happens is this, is where you go and you fail to give feedback.
Oh, so you must seek permission.
Yes.
Then you go, then you must come and give feedback.
Yes.
Okay.
Because
But
you
why
work
must
you work as one. You are in whose house? You are in the house. I'm in the house of ODM. I work with the president. There should be nothing to hide. I should not look like I'm going to spy on my president. I should not look at I'm going to spy on my party leader. I should be open enough and tell my party leader, I've met the president, and the president has given me this agenda, and this is what we are going to do. But if you hide it from your party leader, then your party leader will suspect you to be undercutting some issues behind him. And if you hide from the president that my party leader is aware, again, it's like you are going to spy to the president. So it's as good as you put everything above board. That's the only difference is when you are in opposition and when you are in government.
Sounds to me, Mheshimiwa, like this is a problem of your own making.
How?
Look, you are elected to represent the people.
Correct.
To represent the people means that if they have an issue, there's a road somewhere in Navakholo constituency that needs to be built. If there's a water dam that needs to be built, if the farmers need fertilizer, if whatever they need, you need to represent them with the government, right? Now, if you knock on the door of the cabinet secretary for agriculture or for roads or for this and the other, that's you doing your job. That's not you going to meet with the government.
Allow me to say it like this. For you to be able to broadcast, there is someone who is not visible here, a technician. There is someone above you who is also the editor or whatever it is to make sure that the output of this program is good.
Yes.
That's how it is. There is a process. Even as in politics, there is a process. We are working within structures. So where you're working within structures, you have to be as open and as decent as you, Eric, who is on broadcast this morning. That is how it is. So there are structures in politics. Structures ranging from the political party leadership to the structures in executive. So you cannot just go into the minister's office, you rush and do anything. He cannot just give you everything as he wants. That's how you find ministers have also tried cabinet memos to discuss what is being requested from various leaders. So there are structures. What we are saying is there are structures in everything. The structure of governance, the structure of politics. Even if I go to meet the president today, and my party leader is aware that I've gone to meet the president, for example, let me put it for example for my own case.
Yeah.
When the president came to Kakamega, we had a very nice sitting with him. The deputy party leader, who is Governor Paranya, was already involved in it, and he saw what we are doing. There was no hue and cry. But if you put everything under the table, our president was received very well in Kakamega, absolutely so well, and there was no hue and cry. But if you put anything under the table, then you'll have issues with your party leader. But put everything on the table. We are hosting the president. He has come to do 1, 2, 3. He's the national leader, so that even himself, the president is safe. So we are not putting anything below the table.
Everything is above board.
Above board.
If you're meeting with the president, there'll be photos, they'll be shared on social media.
That's fine.
Everything, everybody can see.
That's fine.
If you leave that meeting and you go and meet with the certain CS, and that is also publicized, that's above board.
That's fine.
So you don't have to actually ask your party leader, can I go and meet the CS Kipchumba Murkomen today because of a certain road? If you go and meet and you come out and say, I've met the CS for road, Kipchumba Murkomen, I've told him about our roads in our area, and he has agreed that we need to work on that. Do you need to ask the party leader?
There is the connotation you're putting in. How you are putting the word ask has a reservation. But engaging your party leader that this is what I'm doing in my constituency is very much okay. Because he's also, remember, we have another 5 years to go into election.
Yes.
He also needs those people. He should take care of those people and protect them and make them happy, make development in that area, so that at least when he comes after 5 years, he says, mulinipa huyu Wangwe, na Wangwe ametujengea barabara. Na sisi tuko pamoja na yeye. So actually what the whole issue is, there is no disconnect between the elected MP on a particular party and the party leadership. Yes.
Your party leader, after particularly this time when we saw several MPs, I think there were 6 MPs from ODM meeting with the president, then there was a party retreat in Athi River. Your party leader came out and said, those people who are meeting with the president, those ones are betraying the cause. Do you agree with him?
I agree with him, if at all they did not brief him. Because I'm not them, but I'm putting a caution, if at all they did not brief him.
Prior to or after the meeting?
Whichever. You see, it's not to meet the president is not a day's function. You cannot go to I cannot leave here and go to State House today. I have to get appointment and move on. So does it mean after all these 2 weeks or so of engagement, they never met their party leader? They should have met their party leader, and they should have told him, we have this. For example, they had a very good course, which they said they had, that they were following up on the Kisumu retreat or the Kisumu visit of the president. Actually, it is the duty of the area member of parliament to follow up on what the executive has promised. That was a noble cause. So should they have not have informed him, then that is their own issues. So they have their own issues to sort with the party leader. But according to me, that is a genuine cause to go to State House to visit the president and explain to him, you promised our people this, so where is our cake for the promise that you did? According to me, that is it. But if they did not inform him the way the party leader said, then now they have issues to answer with the party leader. Yes.
Some are saying that the president is raiding the ranks of Azimio by meeting with ODM leaders, by meeting with the Jubilee leaders. What do you think?
I don't think so. Myself, I've met the president severally. He has never discussed with me on how to move from ODM to his party. Neither has he ever discussed politics. All the 3 times or so we've met over a road called Road C41, which we launched on 15th day of December, the year 2015, when he was the deputy president. Himself, he came there with President Uhuru. They launched that road. Throughout his campaign period, he traversed the same road, and we have always made on concentration on what are we going to do about that road. So definitely, for my case, I've never discussed with him anything to do with the politics of ODM and UDA.
Let's take a break on that note. Mheshimiwa Emmanuel Wangwe is our guest this morning. He's the Member of Parliament for Navakholo constituency and also the Chairman of the Public Investments Committee on Social, Administration, Health and Agriculture. He's here. We are talking about the politics of the day. Does Azimio stand chance of survival, or what we are seeing are they raids by the president into Azimio ranks? He says he doesn't see that as a raid. He also says he doesn't see any problem with the ODM and Azimio surviving.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
Conversation continues with the Honorable Emmanuel Wangwe, MP for Navakholo constituency, 3rd term in Parliament. He's been there since, the 13th.
In the 13th Parliament.
Yeah. So 11, 12, 13.
Yeah.
Hey, City, he says if you've been elected by people to represent them in Parliament, you will of necessity meet with those in the executive. And that should not necessarily mean that you're defecting.
Mheshimiwa is right. You see the logic behind what it is that one is elected to do revolves around how it is. Remember the beginning of the conversation, we were talking about the independence of institutions, and yet the need for the institutions to cooperate. They are the legislators. They have the functions of oversight. Their functions are clear. But what are they oversighting? You're oversighting what? The executive. Okay? Now, if you're oversighting the executive, what's the function of the executive? The function of the executive meshes very, very clearly into the functions of a member of parliament. So, if you understand this, the logic behind the need for one to meet with people in the executive, it's moot. It's not something that you need to sit and discuss at great length. It's as obvious as day and night. But what is equally obvious in my mind is that when you look at political parties, especially a multi-party system like ours, where you have many parties, they have the rules and regulations as to how to conduct themselves among themselves and how they relate to other people. Now, it stands to reason that if someone, say, for instance, doesn't understand how it is their party functions, that's not the party's problem, it is your problem. You are the one who joined that particular party. You ought to know how they go about their business. Now, the discussion we have here is how do parties go about their business in relation to the executive? Not just how does parliament relate? How does the party and its members, those who've been elected to go to parliament, what are the guiding principles that they function with or they go by in relation to the executive?
Whatever guiding principles there are, though,
Yes.
should they gag a member of parliament, or should they put a leash on a member of parliament on, okay, you can engage this much, you can only engage thus far?
Actually, yes, there's always a leash and there's always a gag. Now, I'm saying this because I'm looking at the first time in this country when we had a situation where we didn't have an opposition per se because everyone was in Kanu, and the opposition began to stretch and decided to actually take action, and people crossed the floor. This subject we're discussing now became in the full glare of the public. It's all okay, fine, it's just cross the floor, it's fine. But you are elected on a Kanu ticket. So if you really wish to be in the opposition, then you need to resign from this and then be elected on a
Opposition.
yes, or KPU as it was then. And should we say the rest is then history? I'm looking at the evolution of political parties in this country, and I'm saying it's simply this. We have a very unique evolution. Unique in the sense that it was even made more unique in the period that ended in 2022, where you had a sitting vice president, a sitting deputy president, who was in all essence in the opposition. Okay? It's a very unique way of doing things. But prior to that, in the Kibaki government, we had a situation where there were people who were in one coalition choosing to work with the president of the time, who was supposed to be the executive, and they were supposed to be in the opposition. So this meshing and melding of people from one party to the other and working with the other has always been there. The only fundamental difference is when people do that, you make a move. Now, the move may not be physical because we only have elections 5 years, every 5 years. But in everything except the election, in terms of function affiliation, there are people who are in one party in this country and work with the other party. It's not new. Now, if you find that it's untenable for a party, we've had people being kicked out of political parties, but they still stay in parliament. Now, that bit I don't get. Because I would assume you are elected in a political party, that party kicks you out. What does that mean? Does it mean that they have taken administrative action and you tell them thank you very much and you continue being member of parliament? How does that work, Mheshimiwa?
Thank you very much. I feel the earlier bit you had really explained it so well.
And this later bit I've
And
explained
the
really
latter,
not
the
well.
latter bit is not is what maybe leaves me in a state which I might not be able to explain, but it's actually the way you had just put it. People work across parties, right, left, and center, and in real life situation, Eric, I would put it like what the political party wants is not to display affections where they are not necessary. When you're in a relationship, those days we were young, we could have relationships and our parents could not know until when we now come out and say, here is the partner we want to move with to church and celebrate our matrimony. That is actually what the political parties, the leadership looks like at it like. You can be in relationship, but you don't display the affections. I think once we caution the bit of affections, we'll not be at war with our political party leadership. On the other last bit, my brother here was explaining about how does it work. It's all about processes. The party cannot just wake up today and kick me out. The Constitution of Kenya 2010 must be adhered to, such that you cannot just blame me unheard. I have to be heard. And the process of being heard is what is long. Because today you have to go through the process of tribunal. When the tribunal maybe makes a ruling, we have to end up in court. And the court process, obviously will take some time. So that is what keeps you in Parliament. Otherwise, if the process ends and the court makes the pronouncement and says you go, you go.
Okay.
Yes.
So fundamentally, your party leader does not have a problem with members of Parliament under this party working in terms of development that would come directly from the executive. Is that true?
Yes, I don't think if there is any party leader who will be against that. Because at the end of the day, he is a party leader of that MP. Behind him, who is in my case, is my case. I have 239,000 people waiting for development from me and across my constituency. So to me, there is no party leader who can be against.
To whom do you owe your allegiance?
Allegiance in terms of?
Everything. You're a member of Parliament.
Yes.
To whom do you owe your allegiance? Because we've talked now, threaded in and about whatever it is that you're going to do, you must go to your party leader, tell them what is happening. Then when you finish, you must let them know this is what is happening. To whom do you owe your allegiance?
The Constitution of Kenya.
Right.
I owe allegiance to the Constitution of Kenya. When I saw to become a member of Parliament, I did not swear to have allegiance to a party leader or any other person. The Constitution is very clear. My allegiance is to the Constitution of Kenya, and I work within the confines of the Constitution of Kenya. That's why I'm very sure. Today, if I wake up from this studio and go to see Murkomen to discuss about the road, that is his constitutional function as the CS for roads. It is my constitutional position to go and see what is happening. Why is he not implementing? I don't go to look for the road. I go to find out why is that road not being done. That's the question to him. So it is my constitutional right to represent my people, to go and ask the Minister for Roads, why is this road not being done? So that's why even if my party leader can want to reprimand me, I'll have a defense in the High Court.
Would you say that members of Parliament then, it doesn't matter who you are affiliated to, then you would move heaven and earth? It didn't matter then, if your allegiance is to the Constitution, then it doesn't matter who feels a certain way about a certain thing, that you move heaven and earth to make sure that the representation of your people, of your constituents, is met.
That is true. And where the party leader comes in is in the Political Parties Act, not in the Constitution, which talks about the association. He wants that question of answering to the party leader comes in terms of association. The party leader needs you to keep closer to him, keep associating with him. So what happens when you sit over a cup of tea with your party leader? You'll definitely tell him, this is what I'm doing for my constituency. So he feels very safe that you must associate with him more often. So that bit of association, which is in the Political Parties Act, that if you associate with another member, another person of another party, that every now and then, I'm always with Eric, who is a member of a certain party. I leave my own party leader, then that is now where the problem begins. I hope we are now very clear.
Yes.
There's this discussion seems to be about political parties, but if I look at the members of Parliament who were elected on an ODM ticket, the discussion as we in the media have framed it is not that. It has been these members of Parliament from ODM, specifically from Luo Nyanza, have an issue with their party leader, not the party.
Yes. Now that's different. They have to sort out their problems. That is not within that's their own problems. So for me, I would not want to go into that. If they have their own problems, I'm not part of those problems.
Let them deal.
Let them deal.
Let them deal with those problems.
Do you think, though, that with the way our politics is structured, even just looking at what we are seeing, you've seen the headlines. Last week there was a headline, the way Ruto is cavorting with members of Parliament from ODM, from Jubilee, and is bringing them on board, and they're all coming out to say, you know what, we'll work with the government. We have no problem working with the government. It appears to be that those in UDA, in Fort Kenya, in Amani, now some in ODM, some in Jubilee, are all going to work with the president of the day. And so they will not even perform their job better when they're in Parliament. in terms of oversight, in terms of everything. So they feel they are beholden to him. So whatever the executive is doing, then as members of parliament, their function will be affected.
I don't think so. I want to speak as a former chief whip of the National Assembly, majority party. There are those principles which are in a person. And it's your duty to read what is in black and white. You don't just wake up today, go to the house, and vote as if you are just a voting machine. You can't do that. You have to get your own personal principles in yourself, know the duty that you have to read, you have to know what you are voting for, then you move on. So for me, what I would want to say is this. Whether the president wants to bring on board as many as possible, when it comes to voting for what is for good for the country, it has to be taken that way. And I want to go back to last parliament, when we came to the issue of the BBI. When the current president, had gone with a junk of MPs on his side, we got 234 votes for the BBI. And most of the people also who voted were on his side, despite the fact that he was not for it. So what does it mean? You read what is good for your people and you vote for what is good for your people. So I don't want to say whether he brings on board as many as possible for his work to move on. It will just be business as usual. A very bad bill, we will definitely oppose a bad bill. We will not support just raising anything on the floor for the purpose of this is a number. No.
As Chief Whip, did you get that kind of opposition in your tenure as Chief Whip in the 12th Parliament? Because we talk about the 12th Parliament here,
yes,
and we say that 12th Parliament really failed Kenyans on several fronts.
Like
on
which one?
The cost of living, on bills the debt ceiling, on bills that would come to Parliament and they just pass, or budget that would be brought to Parliament and Parliament just approves that budget without the necessary checks and balances.
That statement...
Are there times,
yes.
Let me just go to the question, then we
Yes.
can discuss. Are there times when, as the Chief Whip, you whip your members and tell them, this is the bill and this is what we are thinking as a majority to vote, and some members would tell you, no, I'm not going to vote this way?
Definitely. There are very many areas when members could say no. And we could... look, the only parliament where we withdrew 3 bills is the 12th Parliament. Look, go to the Hansard. We had to invoke Standing Order number 30 to recall the bills while on the table while on the floor, because members would say this motion is not for the interest of Kenyans. And when members have said no, instead of shaming yourself, you have to withdraw the bill.
Which were these 3 bills, Mheshimiwa?
I don't recall them very well, but there are 3 circumstances where we withdrew the bills on the floor
for further consultation.
Kimunya. I can get it and give it back to you.
Let me ask you.
Yes.
Let me ask the question differently.
Yes.
What would you say is the biggest success, or some of the biggest successes of the 12th Parliament?
Having navigated a disjointed government, having navigated a government where the president was speaking A and his deputy was speaking B, and we put our ears closed and navigated the House until the House had to go adjourn Sinadai. That is my biggest success.
How did that help the country and the Mwananchi?
It's the same way like asking, why is Parliament there? How does it help Mwananchi or the
That
government?
is precisely what I'm asking.
Yes. To me, government, Parliament is where all the laws are made. And if we made any law that maybe it's offensive or whatever, that's why we are under check by the judiciary. So according to me, there is no law that is before any judicial court anywhere, maybe to say we did something wrong on 1, 2, 3 fronts. So since I'm not in receipt of any, that's the biggest, the good thing that I did.
The list that I have is long.
Yeah.
Of the things that you ought to have done and you didn't do, but the one which I look at,
Yes.
and I don't know how to handle, even how to think about, is how you allowed the debt ceilings to keep going up and up and up and up, knowing full well what the consequences would be. Now, we had not foreseen COVID, but then it did happen. And now, today, here we are. life is literally unaffordable for literally every citizen in this country. Now, that one falls squarely at the doorstep of the 12th Parliament.
I want to appreciate that. Who has taken a position to reject that budget? The president. Wait, the president. It takes one man to lead a country, not 10 men. So if there was anything that we had no choice to do, but to move as one. Remember, the current Right Honorable Raila Odinga and President Uhuru, we were working as one. The move was one.
Yeah.
The chairman of finance, which deals with the debt ceiling, and then in terms of collection, was Gladys Wanga,
Yeah.
a very astute politician. The chair budget was Honorable Kanini Keka. So definitely, it must have been an issue discussed by the president and with the know of
The ODM leader.
the ODM leader. Otherwise, we could not have made it that position the way it is. Sometimes, some situations are criticized by media, and yet other facts underlying are not put bare to you. So maybe we can invoke and get more facts onto why that was proposed, without really just saying the debt ceiling was approved blatantly.
So there could be more.
There could be more reasons. I do not expect my party leader to have just said, let us push it. We cannot. And Raila Odinga has fought for this country. He has a lot of wisdom to direct this country. He was on the forefront with us. So definitely, there are more reasons that he can give to you. One day, if you get an opportunity to interrogate him, he can give them to you.
We ask him, huh?
Yes.
I want to ask the final question. Currently, the government is deploying the KDF to go and deal with bandits in the north. Should Parliament have given the approval before that deployment?
I like the way the president of Law Society has put it, and he has got a response from two ministers, Honorable Duale, former majority leader, and Professor Kindiki, a professor of law.
And former deputy speaker.
And former deputy speaker. Fortunately, Eric, in politics, you'll never lack excuse. The answer is KDF has gone behind the Kenya police. Article 241 of the Constitution empowers the Minister for Interior to do that. But if you look at it like, which is the superior force, KDF or Kenya police, it also allows the president to deploy the army to protect the Kenyan people and come back to parliament.
In the situation, in the instance of an emergency.
In the situation of an emergency.
Okay.
Yes.
And an emergency
Yes.
is clearly stipulated what an emergency is in
Who
the
declares an
Constitution.
emergency in the country?
No, there is a difference between emergency, the way he's saying, and state of emergency. What you're asking is state of emergency.
Yes.
Yes.
That's what I'm asking.
Yes. And then you are talking of emergency.
Yes,
So which is which?
both.
President declares state of emergency.
Is there any other emergency?
The way you put it is, clarify, Eric, it was navigating emergency.
Add the word state off before by emergency.
If you add the word state of emergency, and then it becomes it is the president. But the president is not bound that is only under state of emergency. You cannot allow the president is mandated to protect the lives of Kenyan people.
Yes, he is.
And when you look at what was happening in the north, when he was in Nakuru and he talked of the police keeping Kindiki in the north for as long as he's there. How about if Kindiki himself was not even allowed to exit
So he didn't need to seek parliamentary approval in order for this to happen. That's
No,
what you're saying.
the president has the power to release the army. Then he comes to seek for
Approval over
approval
something
of-
that has already been done.
yes.
So you have no choice but to approve then.
Definitely. you see what when it comes to security.
Ashimura, our time is up.
No. When
Our
it
time
comes
is
to
up.
security,
Uh-huh.
it's not a compromise. Yeah,
Security is paramount.
it's paramount.
Mheshimiwa Emmanuel Wangwe, thank you very much. Wangwe, thank you very much for joining us today.